One of the great mystics of the 19th century once said that science is always discovering little scraps of magical wisdom and making a great fuss about its cleverness. And I think that in my life, I have proven that to myself to be a great fact. And I've always felt that not only should mysticism, not so much religion, but mysticism, spirituality, metaphysics, even philosophy, obviously, should be complementary with science. They should not be mutually exclusive. I'm pretty sure Carl Sagan said the same thing. In fact, I think when they have to be mutually exclusive, it's a good sign that they are invalidating each other in some way or that they're challenging each other. Of course, kind of an exception to that is when there are things science can't explain and therefore it denies their existence. I think telepathy is a very good example of that. And also, precognition also, I think, has happened at least intermittently. There are certainly a few cases in my life that I'm certain of. And even when these things happen so often, as in the intuition of a mother and child, something happens to the child and the mother just knows. Or, they've even established that dogs know when owners are coming home, when they're still 10 or 15 minutes away. It's like the decision is made to go home, and then the dogs instantly respond to this. There's still this refusal to acknowledge these things. And I think that the simple fact of difficulty in validation or verification or repeating them, the fact that these preternatural phenomena tend to fail to conform to the scientific method, and they don't cooperate well with the rigorous testing standards of science. It's something deeper than that, because there are some cases where there is enough evidence and still there is this tremendous resistance. And I think that is due to people clinging to their worldview. I think that it's very difficult for me to understand. It's one of the main human characteristics that I really have a hard time identifying with. But I think it's pretty obvious that once people come into a belief system, they cling to it resolutely and even violently. And so you get what we have here today, which is a world in the midst of a chaostrophe. We're all kind of feeling like the overlords, the people that hold the cards are sort of willing to just delete the entire program if they're unable to maintain control over it. And, all of us watching the stream right now, I'm sure, are very well aware of the sort of transition in consciousness that we've been going through. We even know at this point, like, the direct lineage and the catalysts that specifically ignited this movement. I mean, I feel like I do. I can trace it all the way back to Babylonia and Syria and the transmission to Pythagoras, who took it to Greece, and from Greece to Europe, where Aleister Crowley brought it to the United States. He literally wrote that he put consciousness bombs that would ignite in about 100 years and accelerate and catalyze the consciousness of the people in those areas in Greenwich Village in New York City and San Francisco, California. And of course, we all know that the psychedelic movement started in those two places. I do not believe that that's a coincidence. And then a few months ago, I found out that Aldous Huxley actually had physical contact with Aleister Crowley. And then, of course, he took that initiated current over to Timothy Leary and, those people in that circle. And we know what happened from there. And I think that a lot of people have made the erroneous, evaluation that the 1960s failed, that the hippies all went home and got fat and turned into yuppies and gobbled Prozac and cocaine and alcohol and forgot what they were doing or something to that effect. But it's actually not the case. I think that what happened in the 1960s was basically the tremors before the main event, before the main earthquake. And so, we have seen this sort of inevitable boiling of the cauldron, this fomenting of human discontent when placed in an environment that does not feed and nurture and suit even the human spirit. In fact, it's terminal to the human spirit, that is dynamic and refuses to submit. And so luckily, we still have some chance, some fight in us, and some possibility of realizing the full potential of the dream of life on this planet. I don't have a ton of time tonight either. My plan was to do a super long stream, and obviously I have all of this stuff ready for it. But we were busy getting our website together, so I want to encourage everybody to go check that out. A lot of you have been asking me for things I couldn't send you before, and I can do it now. So that's a nice development. And, of course, it's going to have all the Shipibo artisanal stuff that we are sort of, I don't want to call it salvaging, but, the municipality is closing down the Shipibo market, and so we're trying to help create another outlet to get that stuff out to the world. And also you can book consultations with me and all that sort of thing. So it is online as of today, not finished, but it is there, and that's good. So, obviously something has to change. And my feeling is that the reason that we are in this stranglehold right now, that the elite, the authorities, the powers that be, are trying to scare everyone to death, to confuse everyone, to pit everyone against each other. All of this effort is being made to shake the ant farm and to perpetuate and escalate tensions and violence, and at least a failure to communicate that is catastrophic in its magnitude. It did just start storming, and it's the Amazon rainforest, so it may get too loud for me to stream. And if that happens, I apologize. I guess let me know in the chat if the rain is drowning me out. And if it is, I'll just have to try again tomorrow. By the way, hit the like button, share, subscribe. Please join our Patreon, where you can join secret streams and support us. And I appreciate all of you guys that sent support yesterday. It was really great over the last 24 hours. A lot of people have supported the channel, and you guys are all rock stars. So what I'm trying to say, I don't know. I can't. All right, rain is all right. It's hard for me. It's really loud. It's the Amazon, Well, what I was getting at with all this in the beginning is that there's this sort of backlash where there's an anti-scientific sentiment coming from the spiritual community, right? And that is a huge mistake. It's a tremendous error. It makes sense. It's the same exact kind of reaction that was precipitated by the Judeo-Christian patriarchal, monster god being shoved down everyone's throat, and all of the horrors and tragedies and oppression and suppression and depression that came from that. So we went completely in the direction of atheistic materialism, and then we hit that wall and bounced off of it, and people are going completely off the rails on the woo-choo train in response to this oversaturation of atheism and materialism. So luckily, there's this ancient tradition that has been kept secret, and it has made people paranoid as hell, and some of them for good reason, because there's bad apples in every group, but we can basically call it scientific illuminism, and it is the idea that science and spirituality should dovetail, and they should be complementary. In fact, a lot of the ideas that you guys have heard me, if you follow me over the last year and a half or so, come up with that are valid scientifically and correspond to scientific ideas, I did not know the science first. I basically used my understanding of the universe to use reason to come to truth. And then I would get in Google and look things up and see if it was true. When I started talking about the negative, positive, polarities of a wave, I didn't know from having studied them that was real. I just knew it was real because of my understanding of the universe and how things are constructed. And most of that has come from intuition and reason, and also, obviously study of Hermeticism and initiation in the tradition of scientific illuminism and Rosicrucian sciences that I've been describing. And my point about that is that, we need to recreate and re-engineer the relationship between these apparently disparate systems of science and spirituality. And the way to do that is to develop a vocabulary to be able to articulate to people why that is and how it's possible, right? And so, mosquitoes. Yeah, and so, that's really the great gift of, the traditions of scientific illuminism and the ideas of Hermeticism, that when you have all of these instances of discoveries being made by science and physics, and there are indisputable correlations, absolute certainty that these things were understood by people many thousands of years ago, we have sort of opened a doorway to a conversation that is long overdue. And that bridge is the bridge that will eventually unite all of humanity in a singular purpose. We have to remember the microcosm, macrocosm, fundamental rule of everything. And how that sort of informs us about so many fundamentally important things. And for example, you guys have probably all heard Terence McKenna say that the shaman is a madman who has cured himself. Well, if you consider that what that means is that this is an individual who had a fragmented psyche, and he has found the wisdom, and he has done so largely through paths of intuition, but also through diligence and willpower and determination and intelligence and creativity. And in the process of uniting all these forces in a single endeavor, he has invigorated and strengthened them all, and therefore he has exponentially increased his power to predict the future, his power to analyze circumstances, and his power to heal the people around him, because he has done it himself, and he did it without help. The only help that he had came from the universal mind, from his subconscious mind, and quite likely from plant spirits, numerous different types of plant spirits. And so if we think of the human race as one individual who has fractured his psyche, and we realize that each of us are an individual component of that grander psyche, then we understand what our task is: the reunification and the establishment of homeostasis in this greater organism. And that is what we are about to experience, and it is also what the elite are panicking, trying to stop. One of the things that I said a few years ago about this is that, a prediction that I made is that we would actually start to see maybe the elite are controlling, they're using HARP to shut me up right now. We would start to see collective synchronicities, because in the same way that when the individual individuates and creates a dialogue between the conscious and subconscious mind, they create symmetry between their internal world and their external world. And the same process is going to happen on the macro scale. And I would point out that advanced artificial intelligence and advanced alien intelligence seem to be making an appearance on this planet exactly simultaneously, which is completely in accordance with all of these mystical ideas of the interaction of antinomies and these higher orders of symmetry that sort of conduct all of the affairs and orchestrate all of the goings-ons. It's really quite a remarkable thing to experience. And I think I'm going to have to shut the stream down now because I think the rain is getting on people's nerves. Everyone keeps dropping off, and I can't think straight with the hammering on the ceiling. So I hope that was all good food for thought for you guys. Please do join. Wait, is the rain going to stop? See, that's just how that works, right? All right, well, never mind. I have a little bit of time. I have an appointment at 10, but I do have a little bit of time. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys could hear me over the rain. I'm assuming you probably could. But this process of individuation on a micro scale where, the fractured psyche is becoming whole. And, even if you're not schizophrenic or severely traumatized and your parents weren't drug addicts or whatever, and you've never smoked meth, whatever the story is, you're a pretty whole person. It's not even necessary to have a badly fragmented psyche. Our subconscious is believed to govern, nearly 100% of what we do. People hate that thought, that we're automata and that we are sort of like biocomputers. But science tells us that that is a fact. And from watching most people's behavior, I think that it is pretty evident. I think that one of the things that confuses us about that and hinders our ability to fully understand the power that the subconscious has over humanity is the fact that, even the most NPC person has emotions. And even if they are, basically almost entirely empty and normal, they still love their children and they still smile warmly. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're not human, and it doesn't mean that you're not emotionally, fully present. It's not that. It's something else, But even back to the the main drift of this, even if we're just talking about the lack of communication between the subconscious and conscious mind, that's still a huge fragmentation. And my experience with psychedelics and meditation and observation of people that undergo these processes is that what is happening is that there is greater communication between different hemispheres of the brain. And we actually have brain scans from Johns Hopkins and Princeton at this point, I think, that actually show this greater level of communication between normally non-communicative parts of the brain. So what happens when people expand their consciousness is that they literally are becoming more aware. They're using parts of their brain. There are also brain scans of people on LSD that have electrical activity in parts of the brain where there normally is none ever, not even in master meditators, because they've done these brain scans on advanced like Zen masters and stuff. They don't even have electrical activity in those parts of the brain. So, my belief is that you're literally becoming more of a conscious entity. That's why we use the word conscious, and less of an automata. And with that comes a greater degree of self-awareness. And as that self-awareness increases, you start to understand that you are a fragment in this greater mind. And once you have clarity, just in the way that you must understand the damage and the different parts of the psyche and how they need to be integrated in order to rebuild and restructure yourself. To become a shaman, the madman must heal himself in exactly the same way that process happens. On the macro scale, we, through better self-knowledge, determine how to integrate ourselves into the macro man, the atom cadman, the universal man, the collective mind. And it is not until this process of collective individuation happens that the human race can really be healthy and happy. All of the parts must be in their proper working order, and they must be in their proper places. This is why the discovery of the true will is so absolutely fundamental to this process, You don't get notifications that I'm live because I am shadow banned, and I actually did a political video, and people went to my page. This was like yesterday, I guess. People went to my page, and it had my most recent live stream as the one before, and the political one that I did was not even there. Like, I don't know why they don't just delete me, but they definitely bury my content. So, yeah. So the true will, each individual finding his place in the grand, tapestry is. Uh-oh. Houston, we have a problem.